Hi everyone. Wow, it's quite loud. So, let me welcome every one of you here. Before we begin, I would like to highlight one single but very, very important information regarding our presentation. I think this whole event, this whole Liferay Devcon, has many, many important goals, but one of the most important is that to give value to you, to give value to everyone who is here. That sounds quite nice, but you can ask, and you are absolutely right, hey Laszlo, what the hell does it mean? It's so general. Well, considering in this speech, we will try to give you value by trying to give you some sparks in the dark, some ideas how to overcome your challenges regarding moving data between systems and bootstrapping data inside Liferay. Okay, we will talk about Liferay under the hood mechanisms with a very tiny UI, but nothing, absolutely nothing related to AI. Don't misunderstand me. The other guys are talking about AI in the other room. Don't misunderstand me. I don't want to make you run away right now and leave us here, but the goal is to spend your time to keep the most value, to get the most value out of this Devcon, okay? So, after clarifying this, let's start. At first, as Wes already mentioned, let me introduce you Alex, who is a super team lead in our headless team inside Liferay. And my name is Laszlo. I'm working as associate product owner in headless team. You probably know that headless team is not about creating fancy UIs and many complex UI elements, but that's completely fine. We acknowledge that UI is very important, and very important especially nowadays. But it's also worth to mention that even the most beautiful, the sparkling UI, the most user-friendly UI, the super intuitive UI needs to connect to something. And that something is the thing that we are working on in Liferay. We are working on APIs, we are working on batch, and many other stuffs as well. For example, when I was looking for creating these slides, okay, let's give some super quote here. It's not so super. It's not coming from a famous writer or poet, not even William Shakespeare. I just get my Gemini prompt, send a request, and the API gave me an answer. It's magic. So, leveraging batch for integration. Wow, so generic. What does it mean? Wow, I don't know. What are the problems that we are trying to solve here? We gathered all the feedbacks we received from you, from customers, from partners, and we selected to two major groups of problems. The first one is about moving data between systems, as you can see, and I will explain it a bit in detail. And also the second one is about bootstrapping data inside Liferay. When we talk about moving data between systems, we are not talking about moving data between Liferay systems only. We are also talking about moving data from outside Liferay into Liferay and moving data from Liferay to outside. If you have never faced this problem before, you can say, hey, it's easy. Okay, you can have the default file formats, CSV, JSON, it's okay. Okay, the structure of the data is not the same on the source than the destination. We can give some fields from the origin side. There are some other fields on the destination side. Okay, we can fill it with some default values. And you can say it, and you're right. If you have never tried this in life, because this is so much more complex. What is bootstrapping data? Imagine you have a system up and running, so you are happy, but it's empty. Unlucky. What can you do? You can start creating data to give some life to your system. What does the average people do? Like me, I sit down and create data. One, and another one, and another one, and another one. This does not sound like very fun when I need to create many hundreds of data. And for this problem, we have a bootstrapping mechanism in Liferay, which will help you to create huge amounts of data. This also works not just for SaaS, but also for self-hosted environments. If you were listening, and I think you were, you already know that these kinds of problems are extremely complex. And because these are extremely complex problems, these problems can cause a lot of frustration, a lot of stress. And if you don't want to end up like pure John, I suggest you should listen to the things what Alex has to say, because I'm absolutely sure that the things will contain value to you. So Alex, go ahead.
Thank you, Laszlo. I'm not sure if you listen to my advice, you will be better than this guy, but I hope you are. Okay, so I'm gonna go a little bit more technical than Laszlo, and I'm gonna dive in a little bit on the solution to this problem. Okay, so as Laszlo said, basically moving data in and out of Liferay. It can be between different Liferay instances or between different, completely different systems, okay? And for that, we provide what we call the batch engine, which I try to summarize as much as I could on this drawing. I don't know if you can see it properly, but I'm gonna describe it anyway. So, as you can see there, I think I have a laser pointer, yeah, like that. We have 4 ways of interacting with batch engine. That means 4 different ways of moving data or adding data or extracting data from Liferay. Okay, so I'm going to start with the first one, the most straightforward. This guy here, I guess you feel identified with him or her because he's a developer, and the developer uses REST APIs to interact with batch engine. So we provide the batch engine API with 2 main endpoints, one to add data and one to extract data. And we will go into more detail in what this means in a minute. This REST API is interacting with batch engine. I just put a box here, but this is actually a lot of boxes inside that I didn't want to for you to go out of the session very early, so I decided not to add them. But it's much more complex than what you see here. Okay, but let's call it batch engine, just one box. The REST API communicates with it in an asynchronous way. That means that you don't get the data instantly, or you don't add the data instantly. You create a task, and that will run in the background, and eventually you will get a response. That is handled by the batch engine, and the batch engine handles every single entity in Liferay. Well, the supported entities, not everything is supported, okay? It's not perfect, but the things that are supported are connected to batch engine through different means. Essentially, it's just the implementation of a Java interface. I will not go into a lot of detail on that, but you can even get that for free if you use REST Builder to build your REST APIs, because REST Builder by default will create these lines for you. But that could be a whole separate presentation. Just get the idea that through a REST API, you can interact with batch engine to get data or add data to Liferay. The other scenarios, well, this one here is a UI. You will see it in a minute. The data migration center is just doing what the developer could do by hand. You can just do it with a UI that we provide. And then those two things at the top and at the bottom, the batch client extension and OSGI module, are the third way to interact with Batch Engine. I'm sure you've heard about batch client extensions a lot today, because they've been almost in every talk. And when you say batch client extension, now you understand why they are called batch, because they work on top of Batch Engine. So those client extensions essentially are a bunch of files with data defined in them that once you deploy them to Liferay, they will be populated. As simple as that. The OSGI module is the same, it's just a bit more technical way of doing it. We use it internally, and I will show you later. But essentially, a batch client extension is compiled into an OSGI module, so they are essentially the same thing. Okay, so I could have merged them together, but I wanted a symmetrical drawing because I'm a bit OCD, but it's basically the same thing. Okay, good. So this is the general architecture. Now we're gonna go into a bit more detail in all of its parts. Well, as I said, the Batch Engine REST API is like the main entry point to the system. And basically, these are the things you can do. As I said, export data, import data, and you can handle different data formats, okay? As Laszlo said, your data may come from different systems. You need to adapt the shape to the shape that Liferay needs, and we provide tools for that. I added here some links. I will, if you manage to download the presentation, you might access them, but this is all documented in our official documentation. So you have a page just to export things with batch, another one to import things. They will guide you through the process in a very detailed way. So if you need them, just ask them. Ask for them when we finish the talk, and I will give you the links. So yeah, that's basically what I described. This is important here. We have the API Explorer, and you can see there this API in detail. I will show you later when I sit down and do the demo, but I just wanted to leave here the URL that you could use locally with your Liferay instance to see the API. Now I'm gonna go on each part of on each functionality, starting with the export. I just draw this little diagram that essentially describes what I just said. It's an async process, so if we want to export data, what we do first is do a post request to the export task endpoint, and that will just return, amongst other things, the ID of the task. So I was making this joke yesterday in the party that we had, that when you gave your code to the people there, they gave you a little key with a number. So that's the idea of a batch engine task. So you get the ID there, and then you can poll the system. You can enter here in a loop until the task is completed. And actually, if I show you the UI right now, you will see we have a progress bar, and that's what it's doing behind the scenes. It's just querying the system for the status of the task, and once the task has been completed, you can download the content hitting another endpoint. So it's essentially 3 endpoints. Export to give the code to the guy, you get the ID, and then you query until the party finishes, and then you get back your code. So that's the export. These are how the query look like. I don't know if you can see it properly, but very simple endpoint, headless batch engine, / export task, / the type of the entry. In this case, this is a query to export object entries, / the data format. In this case, JSON. As I say here, we support different formats, CSV, JSON, JSON-L, which is I don't know if you know it, but it's a format in which each line of a file is a JSON object. So it's not a JSON file, but each line, it's a JSON file. And JSON-T, which is a specific format for Liferay, the one that we use in the batch client extensions, that actually contains a little bit more metadata, so we can do the whole process. Well, this is not very important, and this field names parameter is the parameter that we can use to decide which fields we want from the response, because maybe we just want to export some objects with just one field. Okay, so we can select that field there and we will not get everything else. So this would be the export import endpoint. Then this is the endpoint to get the status. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time here, but this is what you get back from it. And it says here the status. In this case, it was completed. It tells you how many items have been processed. If there were failures, you will get the failures. So information to know how the export process is performing or performed. Okay. So yeah, those are the 4 states: initial, started, completed, and failed. Nothing fancy. And this is the final endpoint to actually get the content. Once you know the task has finished, you would just call this endpoint export task / the ID or the external reference code / content, and that will download the file in the format that you specify when you created the task in the first place. Okay, so that's mainly all about export. Now import, very similar. You post your data in the import task. This will have to contain the payload of all the data you want to add to the system. You will get back the ID of the import task in this case, and then you can query its status until it's completed, and only there you will have all the elements properly imported, right? So that's the import. This is again the query. Here I'm passing a file as binary, and the URL / import task. Then again the type of element and a bunch of parameters in which we include the field mapping and the create strategy and import strategy. Very simple. Create a strategy. You can decide if you want to only insert new records, if you want to only update, or if you want to do the both things, upsert, add or update. Import strategy means when something bad happens, what do I do? Do I fail or do I continue? You can configure that. And in the field name mapping, you can decide the mapping between the names, what Laszlo was saying before. If the shape of your data is different from the shape in Liferay, you can use the field name mapping to map fields from the source data to the destination data. This is the endpoint to get the status, very similar to the export case, so I will not spend a long time here. And then, so that's all for the REST API. And the other 2 things at the bottom and the top of the diagram were the client extensions. I already explained it on the diagram. These are the 2 main files you will see in a batch client extension. This is, someone said it this morning, I don't remember who, but they said this file, this YAML file, the client extension YAML file is very important because it's where you tell Liferay, hey, this is going to be a batch client extension and it's going to work this way. So this is a sample YAML file, and this would be the data file, which I just showed a little bit of its content, but basically there is a configuration section. This is that JSON-T format I was talking about before, with the type of element, the strategies you want, and then the items. This is the raw data. This could be hundreds of them, as you will see now. Okay, so with this I've covered the 3 ways of accessing batch engine, and now Laszlo will tell you a little bit more about the other way, which was that nice UI that we have. So you can, all yours, Laszlo.
Thanks, Alex. So, as you can see, and Alex has mentioned, that we have this data migration center called a tiny piece of UI, which we will show you now. Well, we have this, what is this good for? Basically, this is a very, very thin UI layer above the batch engine, and what it does, it basically calls the endpoints which Alex mentioned previously. So you can export, select which fields you want to export, select the file type, JSON, CSV, and stuff like that. And after it's finished, then you can download a file. But for import, and the magic is here, I think, you can also set a field mapping, which you can see here. Because you can have these fields, existing on the Liferay side, but these are coming from raw file. And you can map them directly before starting the import process. This way, the shape of the data can be synchronized. One more thing about Data Migration Center, that this Data Migration Center, is still in beta, so you need to activate the feature flag to use it, and also it has the ability to save templates. So you can have your export templates with your default settings which you prefer, for example, file type, exported fields, and stuff like those. And for import, you can also save the import strategy Alex mentioned before, or the update strategy, or the field mapping as well. And that's all for Data Migration Center, and Alex will show you the demo.
Okay, so demo time. I hope I'm in the right branch, not like Brian. And I'm gonna demo two things very quickly because, as usual in Liferay, we are running out of time. And I'm gonna show you a little bit how we use batch for API Builder persistence. So the talk you saw about API Builder one session ago or a couple of sessions ago, I will show you how that works with batch behind the scenes, and we will do external CSV import so you see it in action. Okay, so I'm going to sit down and let's hope that it works. Okay, so this is Liferay. I don't have to put the password. So the demo is going to be, well, first I'm going to show you API Builder, sorry. Let's see if I can make this bigger. So this is an internal development of us, okay? API Builder is, everything is in this headless builder. We call it headless builder inside. And these are the 4 modules that build the whole thing that Carlos and Benny showed. And mainly everything is in this impol module. So one thing that this impol module has is this directive here called Liferay client extension batch, and it points to a folder. So this is the same mechanism used by client extensions. This is an OSGI module, it's not a client extension, but it uses the same mechanism. And that points to this internal batch folder in which we have our data model. So the object definitions that Carlos showed in here later was the API endpoint, API filter, API schema, all those are defined in this file. So we just, with a simple JSON file, I'm not going to go into detail, but for example here, this is the relationship between endpoints and filters. So even relationships, they are encoded in this file. This is when we deploy this OSGI module, this file is run through batch and everything is created. We don't have to run any code, any custom code. It all comes from this JSON. So for us, this was a big step forward because before we would have had to do the service builder, all the UI to list the endpoints, and now with objects, 90% of it comes for free. We just need to model the data, export it, and put it in the source code. So this is the first part of the demo. I just wanted you to see that we are actually using this for real stuff in Liferay. It's not just something that we want to tell you. And now I'm going to go to the more real demo. I'm going to make this a bit bigger. But basically what I'm going to do, so I wanted to tell you a story about that my little kid loves Pokemon and he wanted me to build a Pokédex, but that's not true. My kid doesn't like Pokemon. It's just me that wants to do it because I want to use Pokemon for this, okay? I was thinking about complex stories and it wasn't going to work. This is the reality. So I'm going to go to objects. So to go faster, because time is ticking, I was going to do it manually to create the object, but actually I can do it with batch. So let's go to the Data Migration Center, new import. I'm going to select here object definition, and I'm going to select a file that I already created, which is the Pokemon object definition. You will see it now. This is what Laszlo was talking about before. We can map fields. In this case, we just want a one-to-one because this came from Liferay, so we don't need to do any custom mapping. We click Start Import. It works. And now here, control panel objects, Pokemons. I have Pokemons. Okay, there's nothing, but it's there. It was created. If I go to the objects UI, you will see it's a very simple object, Pokemon. And if you like Pokemon, I don't know if anybody here, we are quite old in this room, so maybe you don't like Pokemon, but I'm getting older and I like it, so I hope you like it too. Very simple. 3 fields, name, type, and image URL. Pokemons are little creatures that have a type, fire, water, plant, whatever. So this is the type, the name, and the image. We just have the definition. Now we need to get the data. To get the data, again, I'm going to do it through Data Migration Center. Another import. Now you will see that here we have Pokemon. Magically, it was added to this list. And now I can choose a file. I'm going to pick this file that I built in Spanish, the columns CSV file with Spanish columns, nothing that maps to what I did in Liferay. And here I have all the data from 800, I think. We are now in more than 900, but I just got this file. So I'm going to select it, Pokemon CSV. I'm not going to change much. And here now is the key. I need to map the fields. I said the name is the name, so nombre in Spanish. And here it gives you the first example of the file, so you see that the mapping is working. The external reference code, I'm going to map it to the ID. Image URL, I'm going to map it to URL image. And I'm going to click next. I get the brief. I start the import. And this is importing 900 creatures. There you go, finished. If I go to control panel, Pokemons, they are all there. Oh, I missed the type. They don't have the type. So to show you that we can also use the API, I'm gonna run again the import process, which I have here with Postman. If everything is correctly configured, not this one, Pokemon CSV. This is the same that data migration is doing behind the scenes. Sorry, I'll make it bigger. Not that big. And the key thing here, I missed the type. It wasn't a mistake. I did it on purpose. Here, I'm mapping the field names. Sorry, because I have to encode these things, but this is an equals sign. So this is name equals nombre equals name, typo equals type, and this is the one that I was missing before in the UI, but I have it here. So I'm going to click send. And look, I got the response, but still it says initial. I don't know anything about it. This is ID 103. If I go to this one, 103, I hit enter, and it says completed, and 898 elements were processed. If I go back to Liferay and I refresh, I have now the type, and I still have... I still have, as you can see, 898 elements. So it didn't add them duplicate. It just knew, because I mapped the ID to the external reference code, it knew that it had to update them and not to add new ones. So it just did the update with this new field, and it worked. And now to finish and to introduce the next session, I think it's here by Danny. I don't know if Danny is somewhere here. Danny and Gerardo. We're going to do a bonus, which is, okay, we imported the Pokemon, but this is not fun. I don't like tables. So we're going to use the data sets, that cool functionality that they are building, still in beta. Like everything we do is in beta, guys. I'm sorry. I'm going to create a new data set. I'm going to call it Pokemon. I have minus 43 seconds, but it's okay. Pokemon, choose an option, Pokemon. So this works with REST APIs. When you create an object, you get a REST API for free. That's the one we are using here with the / endpoint. We go to the dataset. We configure it as a card. We map the fields title to the name of the Pokemon. The description is going to be the type. The image is going to be the image. and I don't know what symbol is. Maybe you can ask Danny. And this is configured. So if now I go to my site, I edit the site. Like you see, everything is connected in Liferay. I love this because you do one crazy API, and then you can actually show it in a page. So if I go here, I remove this container with that tree, and I'm gonna add the dataset. I configure the dataset with my dataset called Pokemon. You need to fix this margin, Danny. Save. And there you go. We have our Pokédex for my kid. And you can do search and those things. So I hope you like this. I don't know if we have more slides left. Demo time. Okay, so the summary, export, import, bootstrapping data. You saw all of that in the demo. And the next steps, we are going to add support for more entities, support for binary files, nested entities, and this is the key one. We're planning to integrate this into staging. I don't know if anybody here has suffered from staging. It's not a disease, it's a feature of Liferay. So we're planning to do it with batch, okay? But this is for the medium long term, okay? And that's it. We're here for you outside. Ask us anything.